Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad.
And greetings, I am Tyranth.
And Tyranth, there are many places in the world that ban horribly dangerous weapons. I'm talking about the most deadly weapons. Like, if you even got one of these weapons close to a person, they would die. Such, like, viciously deadly weapons like the nunchucks.
Or the butterfly knife.
Yeah.
Or
super deadly.
Flails. So what we're talking about is banned weapons, or another way to frame this is also peasant weapons, because they're kind of the same thing.
Well, the contrast to this is that so many banned dangerous weapons are actually less dangerous than many tools that could be used as weapons that you would consider peasant weapons.
Yes, and I think something to start off with is what's the difference between like a peasant weapon and a real weapon? A good example of this is something like, let's say, a wood splitting axe. What's the difference between this and like a Dane axe?
A Dane axe?
A Dane axe, or even just like a combat axe?
Okay, well, I mean, it is just that the weight distribution is the main thing.
The refinement. They're technically pretty much the exact same thing. They're both going to do a lot of damage.
A lot of damage.
It's just one is a little bit more specialized for combat and one is a little bit more specialized for splitting wood, for example.
But they can do both tasks.
They can both do both of those tasks.
Quite adequately.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we're going to be talking about, because you see around the world and in a lot of places, weapon bans that are, first off, a bit stupid, don't really make sense.
Stupid.
And a lot of the reasons why is because a lot of the lawmakers who ban these weapons don't have any understanding of weapons. It's kind of an example of like urban versus rural as well.
Yeah.
A lot of politicians from different places don't understand the needs of different parts of their country because they've never lived in those parts of the country.
Well,
one
of the things that inspired or spurred this video is an additional expansion of the weapon bans in the UK, where they are banning ninja swords specifically.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people confuse like, okay, is it a samurai sword? I tried to look this up, and on the UK Gov website, it actually mentions no ninja swords, like a straight single-edged sword of certain length that you can buy. I don't know. Random places.
Yeah.
A ninja sword, specifically. But I don't know what extent of the ban, I get how much it goes to, because I know you can own katanas in the UK,
right,
but there's probably restrictions like we have in Australia. We can own many swords. They're not actually illegal. They are controlled, which means you have to have a legal reason to possess them. But if you have that legal reason...
So when it comes to banning specific weapons, they work in so much as that they reduce the crime with that specific weapon, but it doesn't necessarily mean that crime itself is going to go away.
Oh yeah, they just move to different weapons more often.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I mean, do you think criminals are going to think, I should not grab that weapon because it's illegal?
No.
They're criminals.
No.
And so oftentimes weapon bans removes weapons from the law-abiding citizens, making them more vulnerable to the criminals that are happy to use any number of weapons they can get their hands on. This is why the UK overreach with their weapon bans is insane. They want to. There's even someone talking about banning kitchen knives.
Right.
And it's like, you can pick up a rock or a stick from the woods that is effectively a club and be crazy deadly. And by the way, club, like sticks, medieval knights would use them over swords when combating people in armor, because it was actually more effective weapon against armored opponents than a sword was.
Well, that brings us to like the main point of this video, and this is that right there is like a combat grade ready katana. Like, that is a legit sword. That's not a wall hanger. That isn't what people are running around. That's actually a legit sword.
Yes.
But honestly, I would have no trouble destroying Shad with this.
This is absolutely true.
If you had that, and this is just a shovel. This isn't even a long shovel. This is a relatively short shovel. But this is where we get into what actually constitutes a weapon. And this is why I brought up the axe analogy at the start, is that it's just kind of like refinements, what changes between like an actual combat grade axe versus a wood splitting axe. It's the same sort of thing with this. This isn't a spear, but I can use this like a spear.
Yes.
I can generate a lot of force with this thing.
I mean, specifically striking on the edge.
Yeah.
That'll crack skulls with very little effort, okay? And because you have a massive reach advantage...
Yeah, that's the biggest difference here.
This is hard to, and even if you weren't presenting it forward and you had it couched already, like, if I get too close and I don't know how to deal with this thing, there is a very powerful attack that's going to outreach me and put me in a very difficult position. But this is the weapon that, you can't allow people to have these in society.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we can, but people are pushing to try and stop it.
And like I said at the start, a butterfly knife is a really good example of this. From everything I know, they are like illegal in most, even in the US, there are places where it's legal.
Bonkers!
And it is a knife. Like, it is worse, multiple times worse than just a regular flipping knife or a static knife.
Yeah.
They are way better. And it's one of these things where the people making these laws have no idea about.
You know what I genuinely think they get inspired or directed by as to how dangerous weapons are?
Are you about to say movies?
Movies.
Yeah.
It's no joke. I reckon pop culture is the culprit for amplifying the danger and effect of nunchucks in the mind of the regular person, way beyond how effective they are in real life. Nunchucks are a dog crap weapon. Literally, a plain old stick. I've done multiple videos on this, is a more effective and deadly weapon than nunchucks. But nunchucks, got to ban those.
So why don't we talk about one of our most dangerous weapons ever? What would you say that is?
Oh, ever?
That we have.
That we own? The Beck Corbin.
This is probably, I would honestly say probably better, not as a weapon per se, because it doesn't have a spike, but this is stronger.
This could do more damage than the Beck.
Yeah, it would be, and it also wouldn't break as much. Like our Beck, we've broken it. This, I would have no worries smashing anything.
Just to do a really awkward segue, you know what's a big pet peeve of mine? Critical hits. What is a critical hit in real life? And do they operate anywhere near as the same or similar to how they are handled in role-playing games and video games? Well, if you are wondering the answer to that really important question, I mean, I don't know how you can go on living without knowing the answer. I'm joking, but it is really fun to speculate. Well, that is the topic of this week's exclusive video. And to get access to it, just $1 a month. And you can do that through Subscribestar, Patreon, or channel memberships. And me and Tyranth, we go in deep to discuss what actually is a critical hit. And by the way, right, small little thing, it's nowhere near how video games handle it. If you approach it realistically, what would be a critical hit in combat? We go into detail in that exclusive. Thank you to all our incredible supporters. It's only thanks to you we're even still here making this content. And we love being able to give back to you content that you love, but isn't viable to produce on YouTube these days. So check it out, $1 a month, and thank you to everyone who's supporting us. Because here we come to the next part of this idea of peasant weapons, tools, right, being in many cases just as dangerous as legit full-size weapons, right? With very little effort and little modification, can you enhance these tools to be near equivalently deadly or dangerous as dedicated weapons? If I just put an edge on this, any grinding wheel you can do that, you have a vicious cutting pole arm.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to point some of those ends...
Well, they have points. They don't have sharp edges,
but you could make those into actual spikes. Get a grinding wheel onto that, and holy crap.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't even need to do any of these. Even with that, it doesn't have an edge on it per se, but it's thin enough that if you hit flesh with that, it would split the flesh apart. And the reason why we bring these up, and it's specifically in the context of like a ban, right, is because all of these things are just garden tools that you can buy pretty much everywhere in the world. You need a shovel to dig something up. You need a pick to break some whatever. You need a sledgehammer to break up some concrete. These are things that are never going to be illegal because they're just modern tools for people everywhere.
Well, the reality that lawmakers just do not understand. When people want to do nasty things to other people, they will find a way. You cannot stop the bad person, the criminal, from wanting to injure another person when they do, unless you enable people to defend themselves. Yeah. Trying to remove their tools will never work because even if you went to the extremity of removing all tools, they'll pick up a rock, they'll pick up a stick, and they still have a deadly weapon.
Yeah. And this is where we get into the thing. It's like, this is why I don't think bans on weapons are particularly effective. Now, does that mean that you should have like every weapon in existence? Well, I mean, if we're in America, I would say yes. But
Hell yeah.
we're not, so whatever, right? But it gets to the point where I go, all of these here are more dangerous than your ninja sword.
Yeah. Like this kicks the crap out of it if you, especially put an edge on it. The hammer. This is insanely deadly.
Yep.
This is a weapon, right? And by the way, in terms of comparisons to the real world dedicated weapon equivalents, right? A dedicated warhammer isn't that much difference to this. It's got a similar, shaped head. Maybe it's got a little bit more length, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right?
And funnily enough, I'd probably reckon they are a bit more robust in terms of breakage and stuff. Yeah. Something like the screwdriver, the humble screwdriver. This is more, I would say, strong than an actual blade. And this is a tiny little screwdriver. You can get screwdrivers out like this big with actual like square geometry on them. Get a vintage screwdriver, and they will go through your entire body. They won't break. They won't chip like knives and machetes and stuff. And it's just a screwdriver.
Mate, look at this.
A punch.
This is a punch made to punch holes in corrugated iron roof sheeting, okay? And it has a super hardened, deadly wicked point. This is a absolute insanely deadly shiv, essentially.
Or something like a sickle. Like these, they're not as common these days because not many people need to do, gardening with them, but it's still a gardening tool, and this thing is a monster.
Well, you're moving into a realm where historically there have been people that used peasant farm weapons that ended up being so effective they became adopted and dedicated as primary battlefield weapons. The case in point, the billhook. The billhook is a pole arm tool made to cut branches at a distance, and it is a crazy deadly weapon that people picked it up, made dedicated weapon variants of it, and entire, army regiments, they were called billmen, right, would be using that weapon.
And even in a lot of places today, they don't really use a billhook as such, but it is a bladed weapon with a blade like this where they can get up to the high branches and cut off fruit or whatever. And it's just the thing, because there's a lot of crossover between weaponry, what you'd consider weaponry, and tools. It's the same reason like a knife, I don't class it as a weapon because it's a bloody tool. Yeah,
and I get to the point where either our politicians are so disconnected from reality, so dumb, or they just want to make laws and legislations so that it appears like they're doing something. And no joke, a politician that can say, I have passed so many legislations through whatever, parliament or anything like that, made these laws, I am doing my job, elect me, right? I think that pushes them to just try and look for ways to create more laws, increasing the bureaucracy that we're living under, just for their own career, not for the benefit of society.
Just think about it like this. You have a parliament or whatever full of politicians that have been elected. Now, these people are just regular, everyday people for the most part. They lived everyday lives. That doesn't mean that they are learned on every single aspect.
Not even
and
close.
That means that they're going to be faced with bills where it's like, oh, we're going to ban pepper spray or like a taser or something, just something like a non-lethal thing, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, I know nothing about this. I've never had any experience with this, but I'm going to ban it anyway. And they have the butterfly knife is like that is the perfect example of this.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Why would you ban a butterfly knife when other knives are more effective? And I say, like, nunchucks is my thing, whereas like a stick.
I mean, it's not even faster. No. It's not even more concealable, and it's not stronger.
Yeah. And there's even bonkers ones which have different applications. This one might have changed, but oh no, I think it came up when I went through customs last time. When you're bringing swords into Australia, single-edged swords are allowed. Double-edged swords, you need a reason or legal something to justify it, but they're not. No joke, they brought it up in customs. And I don't know if that's an actual law or if it's just something the airport thinks that's what they do, right? But a double-edged sword, I mean, are they trying to say that they're inherently superior to katanas? Because if so, based.
For the purposes of this discussion, there's a difference only because of
we know how to use them.
Yeah, but for
a regular Joe picking up a sword,
there's no functional difference.
No, not to them, not to the regular people. And why?
I don't really think there's too much to say. It's just one of those things that I think we should have...
It's worth pointing out the absurdity and reminding people that it's getting worse. We thought it was ridiculous 5-10 years ago. They are trying to increase weapon bans and weapon regulations. And it will achieve nothing.
Well, the most fascinating one and the most ridiculous one is obviously like knife crime, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like folding knives or hunting knives or just like fishing knives, basic knives that a lot of people, I say a lot of people, in rural areas where a lot of people are, use in everyday life. We're not even talking about them. Kitchen knives.
Yeah.
Literally every person on earth has some sort of kitchen knife.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about the extremes, don't do that. We're just talking about generally. Everybody has some sort of kitchen knife. So how would you ban a kitchen knife?
Yeah, they're going to try and ban machetes, or if they might already be banned in the UK. They're not banned here yet. And I do find it funny that, and this would just make people think, well, they should ban machetes. And the point is this, like, you're telling me that this is less deadly than swords that are banned and regulated, when this is a sword, but that's why they want to ban machetes now, because it is a more transferable, obvious weapon.
But again,
it's a great machete, by the way. I love this one.
The shovel's over there, but something that like this is a very short one. If I had a longer one, I am instantly more likely to win just because of reach.
I mean, and
leverage.
If you just got a grind wheel, right, cut off every except one point, you've got a vicious spear. Like it's almost like a Roman Pulin then.
You don't even need to though. Even just a base out of the hardware store, it's still a monster.
So, yeah, I don't know where things are going to be going beyond this. The only way I would change is that I don't think I've ever seen a government bring back regulations and laws where like it's just a continually growing bureaucratic mess of where they restrict freedoms more and more.
Those are temporary laws that never go away.
Yeah, what do they say? There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government solution.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder what will happen in the future. We are in a worse state we are now than we were 10 years ago, and it would take like a complete overhaul of the government and someone with brains to come in to reel back this nonsense.
Well, I just wanted to talk about this, a little bit of a ramble, because a lot of people...
America, do not give up your gun rights.
A lot of people will bring it up as like, why do people need weapons? Why do people need this or that or blah, blah, blah? And it's like, I don't see you saying any of that to these, which are more dangerous in most case scenarios, especially in like modern society. So... And
the answer is...
It's just ridiculous.
Why do people need weapons? Because they're fun. Why do I own so many swords? They're fun. I like them. And I'm a super responsible weapon owner, right?
Yeah, I'll also say that it's integral to our business.
It is. I use it, but if I wasn't doing the business, I'd want to own swords.
And you can use it for martial arts training.
Which is also fun, gets you fit and healthy. And the fact that they would want to restrict my freedoms based on the bad behavior of other people is nonsense. It's punishing me for crimes I've never committed. And that's not just, it's not right. Yeah. So we wanted to rant and just talk about where we are now. We'll see where we are in the future. We appreciate you guys for watching. And if you want to check out something that we talk about in I guess, what can you do against rising crime areas with knife and machete attacks? What could you do if you have restricted access to defensive items? We have a video talking about it right there.
Check it out.
Jesus.